right. Let's go to the presidential speech yesterday before we move on to another topic. And just as a refresher, we have some of the statements he made, and that especially was in regards to media. And let's just refresh ourselves with some of what the president had to say yesterday. That was what was happening yesterday in Mashujaa at the Nyayo National Stadium. And just your take, Nancy, Dr. Booker, on, first of all, some of the things that the president had to say in regards to ICC. You know, on one hand, he said that these people who are bringing the issue of ICC to us, who do you think he was referring to? And secondly, he goes ahead and says prayer rallies will continue. It sounds like a contradiction. Who was he talking about when he says these people are bringing issues of ICC?
Well, I wouldn't want to speculate. I also would want to hear from him who the people are who are, you know, bringing up the issue of ICC to us, you know, because he should have pointed it out in his, in his speech. But when he talks about leaders fueling, tribal hatred in the speeches that they give, I think for me, what I wanted to hear, and maybe not at his speech, but going forward, is what happens even prior to his speech. What happens to political leaders who are fueling a kind of hatred? And oftentimes, sometimes I imagine that life would be better without politicians, you know, because we don't see any kind of action being taken against against them, and they get away with it. And continue polarizing the country. I think for me the missing link in his speech was going forward. What are we going to do about that? What has been done about some of the things that he has talked about, and then what is going to be, what's going to happen going forward. It was interesting, you know, his take on media, and he said they talk about him all the time.
He's still alive.
And he's still alive. And for me, I mean, you know, somebody might look at it and say, well, you know, he took a jab at the media again. But for me, I was happy because if you're in politics, from a media standpoint, that's a good statement. Because when the state is comfortable with media, then something is not right. I think that uncomfortable state is good, for media, because then it means that there are certain things that media is bringing out that would not have been brought to the public domain, if there was a very, causal relationship between the two.
All right.
Yeah.
Clay, your feeling on the president's remarks regarding media, and given the fact that the National Assembly had already passed some draconian laws that were seen widely as an attempt to gag the media, out of pressure from the media and the public, they pull that back, then this statement from the president.
No, I think for me, again, as I said it the other time, is what I don't like is the point where they should not even get to a point where they think about it. You see, and now for the president to come in and say like, oh, you people don't do this, I feel that is in fact an insult, because first of all, this idea of the age of where we have to be, the presidency has to direct parliament not to do something. I think we passed that, and we should be guided by reason, in as much as parliament should not have even reached to that level in the first place. And right now, parliament is supposed to be totally independent. What if the parliament actually does not listen to him? Yes, he still has to sign it into law and all that. But this idea that the president has to come to intervene for the media is it's defeatist. I don't think that...
was he really intervening, or was he just expressing his sentiments in regards to that?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, and this is where I blame the media, we should not get to this level where somebody has to come, like that's the highest authority in the land, you can say that, I mean, as the CEO of the country, where he has to, and I think people are very happy, or even the president spoke up against it and all that. We should actually have structures in place that the media, we don't even have to, the parliament doesn't even have to think about infringing on the media, because if anything, even the presidency itself, the executive, I mean, there's no love lost between the executive and the media. You cannot say like they're friends per se, these are the same people who have said, who've called newspapers meat wrappers. These are the same people who actually have passed other laws, have signed other whatever's into law, that actually it's not a media per se, but like the security bill and all that, which some of the things that actually end up curtailing the same freedom that you give with the right, I mean, you deny with the left hand, and then you try to say, okay, fine, I'm being nice with the right hand. So for me, that was just normal political statement, and I think it was the same thing that actually they say this today, and then tomorrow they do a different thing, and probably we need a follow-up, and that's when probably the executive actually needs to be open to local media, and so that we can actually sometimes ask him all these questions, you know, like, okay, fine, on this and such a day you did this, and this is what contrary to this is what another section of the executive is actually doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So so for me, it's normal political statement. You know, it's not a policy statement per se. I won't read much into it.
You don't feel like it carries any weight?
I don't think so, because based on the things that the executive has done before to the media.
Gadara, do you feel like do you agree with Clay that statement is just what we have an analyst who calls it positioning and posturing?
Well, in a sense, it is a posturing. Personally, I mean, I think it was good that he said it. But it was a bit superfluous, given that the speaker had already said that these laws need to go back and be relooked at, so they're not contrary to the Constitution. But yeah, I mean, it's good for him to come out, I think, and reaffirm the value of the press. I think it's a bit unfortunate, because when we contextualize it, as Clay has said, you know, you find they do many other things, even in the executive, which is within his own purview. You know, in the laws that they've signed in, as you mentioned, the security bill, which had some draconian clauses on the press as well. You know, it seems that there is a bit of a double standard here. You know. So we need to interrogate that, you know, and put him to task on that as well. You know, I agree. I thought the speech itself was more remarkable for what it didn't tackle than what it did. You know, there was nothing about corruption. There was nothing about the current cash crisis.
Yeah, but that's what I was talking about. Like sometimes it's really difficult to speculate.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But these are things that he should have spoken about, and I would have thought that in a run-up to it, these are the things we should lay out, so people are then aware on what's actually being missed out, and it's not just something that opposition politicians say, you know. And so it becomes politicized in that sense, you know, that as an agenda for the country, the media should be setting out one and saying, these are the issues that you need to be tackling. And this is where then what he avoided and etc. Okay. I think on what he actually spoke about, especially on the ICC issue, I think we really need to ask him about his statement that this was a personal challenge for him and the DP, and why is it that now, when it's raised, it becomes a national issue, a national problem. Then secondly, we've had a big issue just coming out from the teacher strike about our government and its respect for orders from courts. This is a court that is recognized, the ICC that is recognized in our own law, you know, and they have been warned about talking about what's going on in the court, you know, and he comes out and essentially rubbishes it, you know. So we, I think, have to be very concerned that this is a government that simply doesn't care what courts say, you know, and the rule of law and how they undermine it should be a big issue going forward.
Okay.